Welcome to the channel with Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. Well, I love exercise. I remember when I was a little boy, 3 and 4 year old, my granddad used to walk to the shops at Barella. We lived in 33 3rd Avenue, Barella, and which is a place in Sydney, in the suburbs of Sydney. And I can remember Granddad walking to the shops and I'd go with him and I'd get so tired. But he taught me to be strong. Granddad was a man of the Navy. He was on 2 destroyers that were bombed, the Canberra and another. Well, I know he was on the Canberra, HMAS Canberra. They blew the side out of it. They limped it back to port. But yeah, he was a very systematic systems and he teaches systems and how to do things, put things back, all that sort of thing. Never forget old Granddad. But he always went for his walks, and even as an older man I walked with Granddad. And it's the older men that teach you the things that you need to know as a younger man. And these things that they know shouldn't be taken for granted. It takes years to instill these things, and you don't realise till later in life how important they are, and you don't realise that these men had to learn the hard way as well. Like, they had to be initiated into life, and the initiations of us Westerners are nothing like the tribal initiations of past, or the Spartan initiations of these young boys. Today, your initiation as a young man is to be able to turn on the telly or turn on your computer, put a battery in the remote or put a battery in the mouse of your computer. That's the initiation of today, and it's very, very sad. Very, very sad. We got a lot to be thankful for in our lives. Well, I have anyway. I've chosen to come out for a walk tonight just to be with God, with the Lord and His Spirit, seeking guidance and wisdom and reflecting on lots of things. All of my relationships, not just some of them, female ones that is, all of them, from the bully, from the first wife who was gentle, to the bully, to the nun, to the narc, to the weed. I guess that's the only way I can describe it, and the ones in between. The fools in between, as it were. But you have to look in the mirror. You have to introspect. You have to ask yourself, why are they not here? Why? Where have they gone? Who learnt what from who? What was the object of it all? And you learn that, I've learnt that women are survivalists. They'll take the hit rather than adjust. They're stubborn and blinded and limited. But you can't expect people just to understand and be what you want. The thing I find is I can be, as long as it's fucking sensible and by right standards, what these women need me to be. But I can't be someone that's just left fucking vacant and wondering. No, that's not what it's about. But in saying that, then on the other hand, I can brutally walk away. Why? Because I think time's too Hear that noise? Bip. It's like your heart. You've only got a certain amount of heartbeats, and once that's done, that's it. Over. I don't think you can waste time, but we all do, don't we? Well, is this wasting time, walking with God? No, it's not wasting time. It's coming back to yourself. Right back. Right back. Instead of being codependent, instead of following lust. Coming right back to ourselves, to myself. I learned a long time ago, way back in my teens, that lust deceives. And when I discovered the Bible and what it taught about lust and how it can deceive, the deceptive elements of it, the misleading properties of it, the dark triad, just blatant dark triad influences of it within ourselves, and how they can spill over out of us and mislead us and hurt others. Oh yeah, we've all got dark triad properties. It's just some poor buggers are more susceptible to them than others. The dangerous ones are the ones that they know have them and know how to use them. And in some respects, that's why ministers are so sinister, because they know how evil works. They know what it does, and they know how to beat it, but they also know how to use it. But one thing a lot of ministers don't know is that the religious way that evil has its way is through laws and rules for righteousness. That's why good intending people become evil, because you cannot approach God based on your own righteousness. The reason for that is you can try it, but you're going to become evil. I've always said there's nothing you can do or not do to make God happy or stop him from being sad, except to approach him by faith in the finished work of Christ. And people just don't want to do that. They have to add their rules. They have to add their laws. And to some extent, this is the same in relationships. There has to be a certain moral ground in a relationship, in an intimate relationship, in an exclusive relationship that both people need to work from and agree on. A moral ground where both feel secure and are empowered from. No guessing games, that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. History's proven that. Modern day is proving that. We know that jumping from one person to the other doesn't work. It's never helped anybody. It just doesn't work. We know that strong monogamous relationships work. They can work. But they've got to have a moral structure to be built on. There must be something that everyone agrees to work with. And what you'll find is people will do anything under the powers of limerence, simply known as the honeymoon stage. And I guess looking at these car yards, relationships are like a new car. They start beautifully, but they wear. They got to be run in. What happens once it's run in? That's where you find out who's who. Some people just have to have limerence. Some people just have to have alcohol. Some people just have to have drugs. Some people just have to have medication. Some people just have to have drama. Some people just have to have all of it. So what do you do when your relationship starts to go backwards? The person that you're with is not applying themselves in a way that's presenting them to be attractive, or you're not applying yourself in a way that's not presenting yourself to be attractive. I tell you, it can work in so many different ways. And unresolved is usually the cause behind it. I mean, if your partner's starting to undermine the relationship and themselves, and you bring that to their attention and they persist with it, even though you're right, the unresolved of this, the tension of your partner knowing that there's something that they need to fix, but they're not willing to do it. They're starting to push on your tolerance and things. By this stage, you should just go anyway. But if you decide to push on, yeah, I can waste more time on this. If you decide to push on in that, then it's going to come back to bite you eventually. It's just how it works. Now, if you confront the issue and that person doesn't want to resolve the issue, I guarantee you that is the beginning of the end. One way, it's going to be the beginning of the end, because the pressure of that unresolved on that person will wear them out. And people have different ways of dealing with unresolved. If somebody doesn't want to resolve something, they will find a way out. Drugs won't push it away. Alcohol won't push it away. Guess what? They'll need to get out of the relationship. That's how they're going to fix it. They'll need to get out of the relationship to get rid of the weight, the burden. When the relationship becomes a burden, whoever's fault it is, right? When the limerence is worn off and, oh yes, we're all going to do this and we're going to do that. And the next thing, it's just a mess. Just a mess. And you're both trying still, but it's just a mess. And this goes for all the women that I've had. The mess will come. It will come. And you try and resolve, you try and find the answers. And it's bizarre when you're starting to see that this person ain't going to fix it. They ain't going to fix it. And you're going, but what about all the time that's gone into this? No, irrelevant. Because people will only flex and bend to a certain point. And that, viewers, is when you know where the other person's at. That's why there has to be problems. The problems are showing you where that person's at, if they're willing to fix them. And I've seen ladies fix some brilliant problems to keep the relationship going. It's beautiful. The problem is when they get to the point where they don't want to fix the problems anymore. That is scary. You see, people that just keep bringing problems are a problem. And sometimes our loyalty and faithfulness blinds us from the reality of that. And we push on when we should have just been less selfish and said, that's it. Don't be so selfish. If you're letting somebody down, be honest with that person and tell them. Just tell them you can't do it anymore, or whatever the truth is. And if somebody's letting you down and it's gone on long enough, you be honest as well. And tell them that you can't do this anymore. that it's all become too hard, too much. That is truth. You hear a lot about truth and spirit. Worship the Lord in spirit and in truth. That, my friends, is truth. When you're willing to say, I've done enough, you've done enough, this is as far as it can go. Doesn't mean you don't not love the person or anything. As a matter of fact, it's a sign that you do love the person, because you're not being selfish. You're letting them go. One of the most selfish things we can do is hang on to somebody when we know they need to go. Let them go. Let them go. Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, on the ProBrick exclusive YouTube channel. Bye for now.